From the cosmetic to the downright powerful, here's literally every One UI 7 feature that was just dropped for Samsung's flagship phones. Let's start with the basics, then work our way up to the game-changing features that you definitely won't want to miss. The first thing you'll notice is a significant change to the app icons with Samsung's built-in apps. Samsung has also added new navigation icons into many of their applications, like these icons here at the bottom of the phone application, and these icons here at the bottom of the gallery application. You guys ready for a really boring update? In the Contacts app, Samsung got rid of the 3-bar menu, moved the groups here to the bottom, and now everything that was in this side menu right here is now in this menu. Pretty unremarkable, but I did say I'd show you everything. If you pinch it on your home screen, then go to the settings and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see an option here called Rotate to Landscape Mode. If you enable this, then rotate your phone to landscape, you'll see that the widgets now orient correctly in the same aspect ratio they were in the portrait mode. Previously, they would just shrink down the top and be completely unreadable. You'll also notice that the app labels keep the text below them instead of moving them to the side like they did before. And the last change is that your dock apps are now on the side instead of being across the bottom. Landscape mode already worked properly on the main screen of Samsung's Fold devices, but the cover screen does take advantage of this update, which is incredibly useful if you frequently use your Fold in tent mode. If you swipe up from the home screen, you'll reveal the new app drawer, which now scrolls vertically instead of horizontally. And when you start scrolling, this little bar will appear, and if you drag on that bar, you can quickly skip around alphabetically. The search bar has also been moved from the top to the bottom for much easier access. And if you tap these 3 dots, then tap Settings, you can change the app screen grid to show 5 columns or 4 columns. If you don't like the vertical app drawer and want to switch it back to the horizontal version, just tap the 3 dots in the bottom right corner, tap Sort, then tap Custom Order. That'll switch everything back to a horizontal grid. But unfortunately, you will have to manually rearrange the icons to be in alphabetical order or whichever order you prefer, because the order is kind of random by default, and if you try to sort it alphabetically, it just switches back to a vertical scrolling option. If we jump back into the settings, then look at the home screen grid option, you see that we're now missing the 4x5 and 5x5 grid options. Samsung says they did this so the widgets would flow better, but it's still disappointing to see that we lost some customizability. The Z Fold 6 has the same grid options for the cover screen, but the main screen has no options for changing the app grid size. All you can change is the folder grid. So that means you're stuck with 6x6 no matter what on the Fold 6's screen. Previous Folds had the option to go all the way down to 4x5 for their home screens. Something that is good to see is the new app and widget style options. These let you change the app size, choose whether or not you want to have the app labels enabled, and even choose whether or not you want to have labels for the widgets. And this lets you truly customize the look and feel of your home screen. App notifications also get an update with a slide down animation versus a pop-up animation like before. But oddly, there's less animation options on One UI 7 versus One UI 6. And we also have less status bar options now as well. We went from 4 options on One UI 6 to just 3 options on One UI 7. A positive change here is the battery percentage icon, which looks much better on One UI 7. Pop-up windows, which are the floating windows you can have over other applications, get their own update as well. If you minimize multiple pop-up windows that are from the same application, instead of having them show as individual apps here in your little preview, they now show up as a stacked application, and if you tap it, you can actually see previews of the 2 applications so you know you open the right one. Previously, you would just have to guess. Folders also get a huge upgrade. Now, when you long press a folder, you'll get this enlarge icon, and if you tap this, it'll make the folder a lot larger. Now, if you just tap one of the apps in that folder, it'll immediately open that application instead of opening the folder. If you want to open the folder, just tap the 3 dots, and you can see all of the apps in the folder. Or if you have less than 9 apps in the folder, you can just tap anywhere in an empty space to open it. And if you want to shrink it back down, just long press again and tap shrink. You get a new bar at the bottom of your lock screen called the Now bar, and if you swipe through it, you can see all of your active applications. You can even see live sports scores. You also get quick commands like pausing or resuming stopwatches, turning off the live translation feature, and quick music controls. And if you tap one of these, you'll get larger controls. Once you've unlocked your phone, the Now bar moves to the upper left corner, and if you tap it, you can scroll through your active applications again. And if you tap on one of these, it just opens that application. And in case you're wondering, yes, the Now bar does also work on the Always On display. Jumping back to the lock screen, if you long press anywhere on the screen, then unlock your phone, then tap the clock, you'll be able to resize it to a much smaller or much larger clock than you could previously. And if it's a little bit smaller, you also have a much bigger window that you can move it in. And if you slowly move it, you'll get a vertical line when it's in the center. And if I swipe up on the clock options and tap style, you'll see that we also get a bunch new clock styles as well, including some of these animated ones. You can also choose if you want to show the weather or not, and move the date and weather either above or below the clock. Jumping back to font and color, you can also change the thickness, and even the text style, and color. If you tap one of the two icons at the bottom of the lock screen, you'll actually get a bunch of new actions. Previously, you only had 2 custom actions, Do Not Disturb and Flashlight, but now you have 11 unique actions to control everything from dark mode to your sound mode, and even enable or disable Dolby Atmos with a single swipe. And you can still, of course, use any one of your existing applications as a shortcut as well. If you tap Add Widgets below the clock, you'll see that you get a ton of extra options on One UI 7. And the voice recorder option is insanely useful. Once you have that set, all you have to do is tap this microphone icon, and it'll immediately start a recording for you. You can then tap the pause button on the Now bar at the bottom, and then you can tap Record again to continue recording. Then when you're done recording, just tap the little stop icon right here, and it'll save that to your voice recordings. But it doesn't stop there. If you tap the time instead, then unlock your phone, then tap the voice recording, you can transcribe the recording right within the application. You then get the option to create a summary from it, and if you tap the 3 dots in the upper right corner, you can add it directly into your Samsung Notes. So this is incredibly useful for things like recording a lecture if you're in school, or just creating a quick note if you don't have time to type it out manually. One more powerful new lock screen widget is Samsung's Secure Wi-Fi. This is a VPN that prevents hackers from being able to see things like your bank account login information when you're using public Wi-Fi like at a coffee shop, airport, or hotel. Just tap the widget to turn it on, and you'll block hackers from being able to steal your money or blast all your personal photos and texts all over the internet. But there are 2 massive problems with this feature. And the first is that you only get 1 gigabyte of data per month, which is barely anything. And the second issue is that it only protects your phone, leaving other devices like your laptop unprotected. So to fix this, I've actually been using a VPN service from today's partner, Surfshark, for nearly a decade on all of my devices when I travel for a few big reasons. The first is that I get unlimited data on all of my devices, so I don't have to worry about it shutting off right when I'm about to log into my bank account. And second, it's one of the fastest and most reliable VPN providers I've personally tried by a pretty significant margin. Third, I only need 1 single subscription for all of my family's devices. I just need to log into the same account on each device, and I'm good to go. And fourth, it has its own quick toggle, so I can quickly enable it right from my lock screen by swiping down from the top right corner, then tapping the Surfshark toggle. And most importantly, it's tremendously affordable. And if you go to surfshark.com/TechEpisodeTV and use code TechEpisodeTV at checkout, you can get Surfshark for less than $3 a month with an extra 4 months for free and a 30-day money-back guarantee in case you prefer to roll the dice with hackers. The camera app gets some huge improvements. For starters, all of the menus are now all the way at the bottom for easier access. And this entire top menu has been moved to this little menu right here. When I tap this, I get all of those same features, plus some extras that we'll talk about in a moment. The camera layout on the Fold 6 is the same as the S24 Ultra when the screen is closed, but it has a different layout when it's open. Specifically, the new menu moves to the side instead of being across the bottom. If you look at your zoom levels on something like an S24 Ultra, you'll now get a 2x zoom option, and when you tap any of the zoom options, a 30x and 100x zoom option show up on the side. And that makes it a whole lot easier to jump to the exact zoom level you want. And you can, of course, still slide across the zoom levels to zoom in and out if you'd like. The non-Ultra series Samsung phones get a similar update, but with a zoom level that only goes up to 30x, because Samsung's Ultra series phones are the only ones that are capable of 100x zoom. For new features, if I tap this little menu here, then scroll over a bit, you'll see this new exposure icon, and if I tap this, I can adjust the exposure for each camera mode independently. So if I jump over here to video recording, and I change the exposure here, then jump back to photo mode, you'll see that the exposures change based on which mode I'm in. And even if I leave the camera app, then come back into it later, it's going to keep those exposure modes. The only time those exposure modes get reset is if you completely close out of the camera app. Now if I reopen it, you'll see that the exposure modes are reset. And while having all of these shortcuts down here certainly makes it easier to do things like enable or disable your flash with one hand, your core settings like the flash, resolution, motion photo, and filters are all still available at the top for quick access. And speaking of the filters, you can now fine-tune all the different parameters of the filters to get the exact look you want. When you tap the More menu, it now opens up in a much smaller window and it still gives you that camera preview. This also makes it easier to reach the modes with one hand. And if we tap either the Pro Photo or Video modes, that simplified interface carries over here as well with that menu on the bottom. Pro Video mode takes this even further with a new constant zoom slider that appears anytime you start filming a video. This slider was previously available by swiping over to the zoom option, tapping that, and you get this little slider here which behaved the same way. But now it's front and center for nice smooth zooms whenever you need it. If you tap the double circle at the top of the phone in Pro Video mode, you'll get an option for zebra pattern and false color. And both of these will help you know if your brightness is set correctly. If you enable HDR10+ videos in the camera settings, then go into either Video mode or Pro Video mode, you'll get an HDR10+ toggle in the top right corner so you can quickly enable or disable HDR10+ mode. And this feature lets you get a significantly wider range of colors and brightnesses in your videos. Pro Video mode on the S Ultra series devices now gets log recording as well. This records in a very flat color profile, allowing you to really fine-tune the colors exactly how you like them. And this will also capture more detail in both the bright and dark areas of your video. Unfortunately, the non-S Ultra series devices like the Fold 6 don't get that log recording option. And when you're looking at any log videos within the gallery application, you'll see this log icon in the upper right corner. And if you want to color grade it within the gallery app, just swipe up on it, then tap correct color. Now you can save that as a copy or directly share it with someone. Ultra slow motion recording has been moved into the slow motion mode, but a huge improvement is that you can now record with any of the cameras. Now let's jump into the camera app settings and check out some incredible new features. If you tap advanced picture options, then motion photo capture, you'll now be able to capture motion photos not just before you tap the shutter button, but also after you tap the shutter button, allowing you to capture more of the moment. If we jump into advanced video options and scroll to the bottom, there's a new option here called audio playback, and this is extremely useful if you've ever used your phone to play music on a Bluetooth speaker and then wanted to film a video. Because without this setting enabled, as soon as you started recording a video, it would stop the music. This allows that music to continue playing while you're filming your videos. In the general settings, there's a new composition guide option, and if you enable this, you get the option to enable grid lines and the level independently of each other. And this just refers to these grids here, as well as the level that appears when you turn your phone. If you go into Expert RAW mode, then tap this beaker icon, you'll see this new icon here, and if you tap this, you'll be able to take an astro portrait photo. This allows you to get an incredible long exposure photo of the stars with you in the photo. If you like using power saving mode to save some battery life, but you don't like having all of the different power saving features enabled, you can now actually disable specific power saving features that you don't want on. So this allows you to still save some battery life without sacrificing your favorite features. And while we're talking about the battery, if I back out of this menu and tap the battery protection option and enable it, you can now change your maximum charge percentage value. So if I tap maximum, I can choose 80%, 85%, 90%, or 95%. Speaking of charging, we also get new charging animations. The standard speed and fast charging get a lighter green animation, super fast charging gets a lighter blue animation, and super fast charging 2.0 gets a darker blue animation. And these colors are also shown in the upper right corner if you have your phone unlocked. Samsung also updated the sound effects for charging. That's your standard and fast charging sound effect. And here's your super fast charging sound effect. There's also new unlock and lock sound effects. All of Samsung's widgets also get some massive changes. Even the battery widget looks entirely different now. Samsung's also added brand new widgets for a lot of their applications as well. If we look at the Samsung Health app, you can see that there's a brand new energy score widget, updated sleep widgets, and updated steps widgets as well. But all the non-Samsung widgets remain exactly the same. Another new feature with Samsung's widgets is they dynamically change to the other widget formats when you just resize them. And this is true for all of Samsung's widgets. Some of the widgets also get new controls if you long press them and tap Settings. You can see here that the countdown widget now has a custom image option instead of just the default image. You can also choose to have no background at all. And if you scroll further down, you can change the shape of the widget as well. None of this was possible on One UI 6. The calendar app also gets some cool new features. For starters, you can just long press on an event and move it to another day. If there's an important event in your calendar and you select that event, you now get a More option in the bottom right corner, and if you tap that, you can add a countdown widget to your home screen. And here's a quick bonus tip: if you long press the icon, you can actually choose which page on your home screen you want to put it on. And this trick works for any widget. If we look at the calendar widget, you can now long press it and tap Settings and change which specific calendars you want to show. You can also now have multiple calendar widgets where each widget only shows specific calendars. And if you want to move everything in your calendar from one calendar to another, like let's say you want to move it from your Samsung calendar to your Google calendar, all you have to do now is tap these three bars, tap the settings gear, scroll down until you see Manage Calendars and tap that, tap the three-dot menu in the upper right corner, tap Move Events, select the calendar you want to move the events from, and select the calendar you want to move them to. Then just tap Next again, and the calendar will be moved. If you open the Reminders app, then tap this three-bar menu, then Settings, and scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see a new option called Delete Completed Reminders. And if you tap this, you can automatically delete your completed reminders after a month, 6 months, or 12 months. Previously, you had to manually select your reminders to delete them, which took an incredibly long time and honestly wasn't even worth it. Speaking of completed reminders, once you complete a reminder, you can go and look at your completed reminders list, long press it, then duplicate it if you want. It'll then copy all the information from that original reminder into a brand new reminder. Previously, this just wasn't possible. If you're creating a new reminder and you decide to have it repeat, and you want it to repeat either every month or every year, you now get a new option called Select Dates to Repeat, and if you tap that, you can choose specific dates within a month, instead of just a specific day in that month. If you open up the weather application and scroll down under the 7-day forecast, you'll now see weather conditions specific to different sporting events. You can have running, cycling, gardening, and if you swipe to the end and tap Settings, you can also get forecast information for these other sports as well. So if you're someone who enjoys outdoor activities, this is actually really useful information. Another brand new feature that's really useful in the weather app is found when you look at your locations. If you long press one of the cities, you can now add a label so it's easy to identify why that location's important. If you ever open up a boarding pass in the Samsung Internet application and that airline is supported, a button will appear so you can add that boarding pass directly into Samsung Wallet. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any active boarding passes, so I can't show you that feature, but that button should appear for you. The Gallery app gets a brand new search option that lets you use AI to search for things. So you can now say things like, big room with a blue ceiling. And it pulls up every picture that it thinks is related to that. These three are definitely right, but it also picks up some things that aren't quite right. Regardless, this is still a huge improvement from what we used to have. The Settings app also gets the AI search treatment, so you can now say things like, settings for eye fatigue. Okay, well, that's funny. I don't think that's actually a word. Let's try again. Settings for eye fatigue. Oh, man. Well, I guess the AI isn't so smart in the Settings app. Let's try something even simpler. My eyes hurt. There we go. Now you get settings for eye comfort shield and different comfort settings for your eyes. So definitely try some different things. Some things clearly work, some things clearly don't, but that's pretty funny. Drawing Assist gets a huge update with One UI 7. Previously, you could just draw something and have AI try to make a better version of that drawing, and it wasn't terribly good at that. But now you get a bunch of different options. You can obviously still draw if you want to, or you could convert an existing image into one of these 6 different types of drawings. But most interestingly, there's this text option, and this can create pretty much anything you can think of based on a text prompt. Like, that's just crazy. Smart Select also gets a big update and now becomes AI Select. And if I tap the same thing on both phones, you'll see that while both of them realize I selected text, AI Select also gives me extra options like Writing Assist to modify that text, summarize it, or even do things like make it into bullet points or a table. And AI Select is also context aware, so if I select something different, I'll get different options at the top. Galaxy AI within the Samsung Internet application gets its own update, and it now has a new option called Read Highlights Aloud. If you tap this, it'll create a summary of the page you're currently looking at and read that summary out loud. And if you're looking to master your Samsung devices, definitely check out the digital guides at shop.techisode.tv. Google's Gemini is now the default assistant when you hold your phone's side key. And the One UI 7 update deeply integrates it with Samsung's own applications. That means you can now say things like, what are 3 easy-to-cook Mediterranean-style meals? And if you want to save that list of meals for later, you can just say, add this list of meals to my Samsung Notes.
Okay, I've added the list of meals to your Samsung Notes.
Now let's take a look at the new notification panel. By default, if you swipe down from the left side, you get your notifications. But if you swipe down from the right side, you get your quick panel. But what most people completely missed is that you can just swipe across any open space to go back and forth between the two pages. Now let's talk about some of the incredible new customization features in the quick panel. If you tap this little edit pencil, you can long press any one of these blocks and drag them to a different position. You can also grab this bar below your quick toggles and either decrease or increase the size of that window. And if you tap edit, you can customize the orientation of these toggles or add new toggles from the list below. And there's also a new toggle here that I want to quickly point out, and that's called Finder. If you enable this toggle, then tap done, and we'll tap done to stop editing the panel, you'll now be able to tap this Finder shortcut and immediately open up the Finder on your phone. And the other toggle I want to point out real quick is this sound search toggle, and this lets you quickly figure out which music is playing nearby. This was available on One UI 6, but a lot of people missed this, so I wanted to point it out here. Once you're done customizing your panel, you can now just swipe down on your quick toggles to reveal all of them, or swipe back up on this little bar to hide them again. You'll also notice that the volume now has its own dedicated slider below the brightness. There's also some hidden controls you can get to by long pressing different items. If you long press the volume bar, you can quickly enable or disable Dolby Atmos, change your equalizer settings, and enable loudness normalization. If you long press the brightness toggle, you can enable or disable adaptive brightness, enable extra brightness, or enable adaptive color tone. And if there's no media playing, either music or video in the background, you'll get this play last song option, and if you tap this, it'll automatically start playing the last song. If we tap the pencil icon to jump back into the editing options for your quick panel, then tap panel settings in the top left corner, you'll see this quick panel on left side toggle, and if you tap this, it'll move your quick panel to the left side of the screen instead of the right side of the screen. And I'd imagine this would be pretty useful for those of you who are left-handed. The new notification shade also changes how the notifications are received. So now if you get multiple notifications from the same application, you'll get a number with the total number of notifications on the right. And now all you have to do is tap it to expand those notifications. If you want to expand it further, you can tap the little arrow or drag down on the notification. The only thing I wish was different about the new notification shade is that I wish you could just swipe down on the bottom to bring all the notifications down, because if you're using this with one hand, it does get kind of difficult to reach all the way to that top notification. And if you prefer having your quick panel and notifications together like it was before One UI 7, you can do that by swiping back over, jumping back into that editing menu and back into the panel settings, and tapping this option here called Together. Now when I pull down my notification shade, it looks like it did on One UI 6. One UI 7 brings a brand new feature that makes it a whole lot easier to transfer data from your phone to your computer. Just go into your settings, then connected devices, and enable this storage share option. And if you have either a Galaxy Book or a Samsung TV, you'll be able to access all the files on your phone just like you plugged a USB cable in from the phone to the computer, with the obvious difference being that this is now wireless. When you're looking at a video in your gallery, you'll see this new star option in the corner, and if you tap this, it'll analyze the video, and once that's done, you can now use the adjustments on the sides to either increase or decrease the levels of different types of sounds. And this actually works tremendously well. I'm actually really impressed with this feature. If you take a picture of people and motion photo is enabled, and someone happens to be closing their eyes or their face just isn't quite right, you can swipe up on that photo, then tap Choose Best Face, and you get a bunch of other options to choose from. but not those. That's the chin proportions, like where the mouth is just, that's not right. This is the stuff that nightmares are made out of. Fortunately, there's a view more option, and if you tap that, you can scroll through and find a better looking face. This looks like a normal smile here. That's a little better. Regardless, this is certainly an improvement over eyes closed. Stories finally get the update that I've been waiting for a long time, and that's the ability to just drag things from one position to another. All you have to do is long press and keep holding until you feel a vibration twice, then you can drag the image or video to another spot. When you look at a motion photo in your gallery, you now have this drop down, and if you tap this, you can change the motion photo effect. So you have boomerang, slow motion, or you can completely turn the effect off. If there's ever something in one of your photos that you just don't want there, you can actually long press the object, then tap erase. That'll automatically get rid of the object and create a second image for you. However, this doesn't work for everything. If it thinks that the object you're selecting is the main subject of the photo, it'll actually give you these different options instead. And even if I tap these three dots, I won't get the option to erase it. To do that, you'd still have to use the Galaxy AI menu here at the bottom, then tap the object you want to delete, long press it, tap the erase icon, and tap generate. And while that works well, it certainly takes much longer than just long pressing an object and tapping erase. If you select multiple photos, then tap create, then choose collage, you now get a new option in your collages called freeform, and this allows you to place your images anywhere you'd like. And if you tap this icon here, then tap the plus icon, you could choose any other image to use as the background. And you can even decrease the amount of blur on it, or choose from one of these presets. If you're editing a video on your phone, and you go to apply one of the filters, you'll now get an undo button to undo any changes that you made. Previously, if you applied any filters at all and made some adjustments, there would be no undo button at all and you'd just have to remember what you changed. If you use Samsung's Studio app to edit videos, then tap the sticker icon and add a sticker, it'll add that to a separate layer, and if you tap this little icon below it, you can give it an in animation, an out animation, or even a loop animation if you want. On One UI 6, none of those effects were available. The Studio editor also gets a brand new option called Auto Trim, and if you tap this, it'll analyze the video and automatically cut it down to just show the highlights. If you tap the three dots in the upper right corner of a video and open it in the video player, then finish watching the video, you'll get a replay icon which will take you back to the beginning of the video. Previously, as soon as the video ended, it would have actually just backed you out back into the gallery. When you're on a phone call, you'll now see this new icon, and if you tap this, it's going to automatically start recording that call, and it's going to alert the person that the call is being recorded. But not only that, it's also going to transcribe the call. And once the call is finished, you'll get a notification telling you that the recording was saved, and if you pull down on that notification, you can tap to view the transcript, and you'll see everything that was said in the call. And you can also play the call back with the play button at the bottom. And if you want to read the transcripts later, just open up the phone app, go to your recent calls, and you'll see a microphone next to any call that was recorded. Just tap that, then tap View Transcription. The Samsung Health app also gets some big improvements with One UI 7. For starters, the stress panel now shows you your current stress level instead of just the word stress. And if you tap it, you'll see that the stress levels are now broken up into more clear sections. Previously, it was just a gradient with not a really clear description. You can still see your stress throughout the day as usual, but if I scroll down a bit, it'll show me how much of the day was spent at the different stress levels. And if I scroll further down and go to the breathing exercise, it's now called mindfulness. And if I tap this, you'll see that I now get 3 new breathing exercises. And these new exercises even include a hold on your exhale as well. Previously, you could only hold your breath on the inhale. And there's also this new information panel, which explains why the different breathing exercises are helpful and tells you when to use each different type of exercise. And speaking from experience, these breathing exercises really do make a significant difference. If we back out to the main Samsung Health menu and tap the mindfulness option here, you actually get a few extra options. You can do things like log your mood, anything from awesome to terrible, start a breathing exercise from here, or do one of the meditations, which is basically someone talking really slowly to you over like 10 minutes. And I gotta be honest, that stresses me out way more than actually helps. Personally, maybe it's just a personal thing, I don't know. But about a 1 or 2 minute time of just praying is way better for me than any of these things. And if you can relate, let me know in the comments below. I'd say probably the most useful thing here is probably the music category, because this is just some relaxing music to help you calm down. If you take any medications regularly, or maybe you're on an antibiotic for a shorter period of time, you can tap the medications tile and add that medication here. And once you've added a medication, you'll get reminders to take that medication, and you can even log the medication you've taken here as well. And as you add more medications, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see this drug allergies option. And if you tap this, you'll see any common allergies people have with different medications. And if you have multiple medications added, it could show you possible interactions between those medications. The next new option is a hard pass for me. It's being able to see all of your health records within the Samsung Health application, and something tells me that in order to set this up, you have to give Samsung permission to actually see that information so they can put it in the Samsung Health application. So while that does sound pretty convenient, there's already health portals for most of the different health stuff you need anyway, so I'm not going to add this for myself. If you're someone who's motivated by awards, then you'll be happy to know that if you go to the My Page section, then Badges, there are now a bunch of new available badges for accomplishing different tasks. If you have multiple alarms related to the same thing, like maybe your work schedule, you can now long press an alarm, then select the rest of them that are related to each other, and tap this group option to group those alarms into a single category. So if these are all of my work alarms and I go on vacation, I can disable all of them with a single tap. Then when I get back from vacation, a single tap re-enables all of the alarms. Another new alarm feature is found by pressing these 3 dots here, then tapping Settings, then Volume, and you can now use the same volume for all of your alarms. Previously, you had to set the volume manually for each alarm, though you can still do that if you prefer. This next update is a big win for gamers. If we jump into our settings, then scroll down to Advanced Features, then scroll to the bottom of this page and tap Game Booster Settings, we get this new option called Customizations for Individual Games. If you tap this, then tap one of your games, you can set the optimizations differently for each game. So if you just want to maximize performance for one of your games, you can set that here. Then when you save this, you can jump into another game which isn't that processor intensive, and change the optimization to battery saver mode. Previously, whatever settings you changed here applied to all games, and every time you switch between games, you'd have to change them manually. The game panel has also been redesigned for faster access to a bunch of shortcuts. If you tap Edit, you can change the order of those shortcuts. The new panel also gives you quick access to more pop-up apps, so if you tap one of these, it'll just open up that app in a quick pop-up window. And that would be useful for quickly making a call without interrupting your game. Attaching files to things like emails also gets a significant update. For starters, you now have the option to immediately take a photo with your camera and put that in the message. And if you go to insert an existing photo, you can now select multiple photos and add that group of photos in one shot, or also view those photos. And now you can swipe through to make sure you picked the correct photos. Previously, the first time you tap a photo, it just immediately dumps that photo into the message. So this is going to make it a whole lot easier to send the right files to somebody. If you use the Assistant menu from the accessibility options, then use the pinch to zoom option, you can now just swipe left or right to zoom in or out. And you can also do it with an upward or downward swipe. And if you go to the Assistant menu settings, then select Assistant menu items, you get a new touch and hold and double tap option. And tapping one of these will allow you to do things like touch and hold with a single tap. The tests within the accessibility menu have also been updated to be easier to use. Previously, the test was a bit ambiguous and hard to do properly, but now you get updated tests like these 3 circles, which make it a lot easier to figure out what you're doing right or wrong. It's not all good news with One UI 7. If I open up the Edge panels, then go into the Edge panel settings, you'll see that on One UI 6, you can access the Galaxy Store and download a bunch of third-party panels to do lots of different things. Starting on One UI 7, those are no longer available, so you'll just be limited to Samsung's panels. Now here's where things start to get absolutely insane. If you pull down your quick toggles, then long press this Modes toggle right here, it's going to take you into the Modes and Routines application. And if you don't know what this is, I've already done a super deep dive into all that Modes and Routines can do, and you can check that out by clicking this card above after you watch this video. But the short of it is that Modes and Routines allows you to control pretty much anything on your phone or any connected smart device automatically based on over 100 different parameters. And with One UI 7, Samsung brought this to the next level. If you jump into the Routines tab, then create a new routine, then select an if trigger. Now, this can be anything you want it to be, but I'm going to set it to start manually just so we can get to the next step. So on One UI 7, if you add a then option and scroll to the bottom, then tap Advanced Options, you'll now see this if else option. And this is insanely powerful. First, you can select an action to get data from. So if you do that, you can get information about current exercises, the temperature, the current weather, the mode you're in, even things like your Wi-Fi strength, and more. So for this example, let's use the precipitation probability. I can have that set to my current location, and then I can see the current probability or the probability at a specific time. Now I'll just tap Done, and I can choose to check if the precipitation is in any of these ranges. And let's say I want this to check for any time the precipitation possibility is over 80%. Now I can tap Done, and I get these if-else options. So if this is true, if the precipitation's over 80%, I can add an action here and have it show a custom notification. And as I'm entering that information, I get these variables down here at the bottom, and if I select this, it'll add that variable into the notification. So now if I tap Done, and my phone detects that there's at least an 80% chance of rain that day, I'll get a notification on my phone telling me what that percentage chance is and telling me to bring an umbrella before I leave for work. You can also add actions for if that statement is not true. So if it's less than 80%, I can have my phone do something different. And since this can control any of your smart devices, this starts to get tremendously powerful. So again, this is only scratching the surface of what modes and routines can do. So if you want to see that deep dive, definitely check out the other video. Quick Share is a feature that allows you to share any file of any size at its max quality with any other device with a direct Wi-Fi connection. And this makes for extremely fast transfers. But one of the problems with Quick Share was that if you move the devices too far away from each other, the transfer would fail. But there's now a new setting to fix that. So if we long press the Quick Share option, we get this new option called Allow Sharing over Internet. And what this will do is automatically switch over to sharing the data over Wi-Fi or your mobile network if you end up moving the devices too far away from each other. But while this is a great feature to make sure your transfers don't fail, it can cause you to use up a bunch of your mobile data if you have this enabled and try to make a transfer when you're not on a Wi-Fi network. In most cases, it'll transfer just fine, but if you move too far away from the other person, then you may end up transferring over mobile data. If you're ever concerned about the security of your device, this next one's for you. If we jump into Settings, then scroll down to the Security and Privacy page, and scroll down a bit further, you now get this new option called Security Status of your devices. This uses a new security feature called Knox Matrix and can check your other Samsung devices that are running on One UI 7. This is important because some viruses are sophisticated enough to hide themselves from the device that they're on. What Knox Matrix does is allows your One UI 7 devices to check each other, and that gives you an even greater chance of finding any viruses and stopping them. But that said, the best way to protect your devices is to not go on sketchy sites in the first place, don't click links in text messages from people you don't know, and don't open any files from emails that seem a bit out of the ordinary. There are a few more powerful new security settings found in Lost Device Protection than Theft Protection. The first is an identity check, which requires biometrics in order to make any significant changes to the settings on your phone. This way, someone can't come in and start changing all your security settings, even if they know your PIN pattern or password. Theft Detection Lock will automatically lock your screen if someone steals it right out of your hand and starts running away with it. And it detects this using the motion sensors and your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connections. And lastly, you get Offline Device Lock, which will automatically lock the screen if it gets disconnected from a network, like if a thief puts your phone on airplane mode so you can't find it. If you pull your quick panel down, you'll see this new option here called Nearby Devices, and if you tap this, you'll not only be able to drag things like wireless earbuds onto your phone to quickly connect them, but you can also drag things like your Samsung tablets onto it. And this will start something called multi-control, which allows you to control your phone from your tablet. You can also tap on a connected device and get a bunch of controls for that specific device. If you happen to own any Galaxy Watch from the latest all the way back to the Galaxy Watch 4, then you definitely won't want to miss this video here. And consider subscribing and turning on notifications if you want to see more deep dive tech videos just like this. That's it for this tech episode. Jesus loves you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.